Okay, Mr. Chair, we're ready to begin.
Thank you, David. It is 5:32, and this is the November 2nd, 2020 meeting of the Architectural Advisory Committee of the City of Palm Springs. Director, may we please have roll call?
Yes, Member Thompson,
I'm here.
Member Walsh,
Here.
Member Paline,
Here.
Member McCoy is excused. Member Lockyer, John, Member Lockyer, you're here. I see you. It looks like we've lost your audio, but I'll note that Member Lockyer's here. Member Dozy is not here yet. Vice Chair Rotman
Here.
and Chair Jakeway.
Here.
We have a quorum.
And David, could you please point out that because Member McCoy is not here, Member Thompson will be acting as an actual member of the committee on all the subjects today.
You are correct, Mr. Chair. So as Mr. Thompson, as the alternate, is able to stand in on all items unless there's a conflict.
Thank you. May we have a staff report on the posting of the agenda?
Yes, Chair and committee, the agenda was posted on Thursday, October 29th. The meeting has been posted in accordance with law and local requirements.
Thank you. Does the committee have any revisions to the agenda? I would like to request that item number 4, construct a single-family residence on Milo Drive, and item number 7, the LGBT Center for Minor Architectural Application, that those 2 items be moved to the consent calendar. Would somebody on the committee like to make a motion that we can do that?
I will, Mr. Chairman. I will move that number 4 and number 7 be moved to the consent calendar.
Chair,
Yes.
I have to recuse myself from voting on items 4 and 7. So
I'll second the motion.
So David, can we move them to the consent calendar if Robert cannot vote on those 2? Could he just not vote on the consent calendar?
Yeah, what we would do is just note his abstention for item number 7, but the committee can vote.
And item number 4.
And item number 4 if there's a conflict, yes.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. All in favor of moving those to the consent?
Aye.
Okay,
Can you hear okay now?
we got you.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any members of the public, David, that are requesting to speak on an item not on the agenda?
We have not had any requests to speak, but I would suggest that we open it up for public comment if there is anyone who wishes to speak at this time. Otherwise, each applicant will have the opportunity to speak when their item is heard.
Okay. So are there any speakers to be seen? Okay, let's move ahead to the minutes. We're looking at 3 different meetings, June 15th, October 5th, and October 19th. Does anybody in the committee have any revisions to any of those 3 minutes?
Chair, I don't recall, but on the October 19th meeting, it says that Vice Chair Rotman called the meeting to order. I don't recall if that was the case or not.
That's a good call.
Well, staff will check that and make sure that it sounds like it probably isn't correct if you're there, Mr. Chair, so I'll make sure that we correct that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on the minutes? We have a motion to accept the consent calendar, which would include the minutes and item number 4 and number 7. Do we have a motion to?
I will so move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. Second?
I'll second.
Second by Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay, that motion is accepted.
So for the benefit of the participants, items number 4, which is the Ben and Josie Bernal, single-family residence at Milo Drive, and item number 7, the LGBTQ Center for minor architectural application to do minor exterior changes. Both of those items have been recommended for approval by the committee. And so if you wish to sign off now, you no longer have to participate.
Okay, so now we're going to move ahead to unfinished business. Item number 2, Best Signs, Inc. on behalf of Margaritaville Resort for sign program amendment approval to install a monument sign at the northeast corner of North Indian Canyon Drive and East Vista Chino Drive on hotel property located at 1600 North Indian Canyon Drive. Do we have a staff report, please?
Yes. Thank you. Good evening. This application is the proposed sign program amendment for Margaritaville Resort located at 1600 North Indian Canyon. As you're probably familiar with this project, the application proposes the installation of one monument sign, and the application was reviewed by the AAC on September 8th. Just to go over the project very quickly, the proposed monument sign will be located at the corner of North Indian Canyon Drive and East Vista Chino. And the sign will be installed in the same location where the previous Riviera Hotel sign existed. And this is the sign that was previously proposed by the applicant. Just to go over the design, which it's a monument sign which incorporates the Margaritaville Resort, the sign design component as you've seen here. And the proposed sign is 8 feet in height and 105 square feet in the area. At the September 8th meeting, the AAC provided the following comments. Use authentic materials such as real wood that can weather over time instead of a synthetic wood material. And that's something that relates back to the brand. Modify sign to be more transparent and integrate into existing architecture. And the sign design to be somehow incorporated into the landscape with appropriate materials and wider base. And the use of stucco background was discouraged by the committee. And the committee suggested the use of water feature, and they ensure that the existing landscape hedge to remain as a part of the ground, to remain as a part of the background if it's going to be remaining at the site. The staff forwarded these AAC comments to the applicant for consideration. We did receive a response from the Margaritaville Resort Corporation stating that the solid background of the sign is required by the corporation as a part of the sign design, and floating or transparent sign design will compromise the legibility of the proposed signage. Based on these design constraints presented by the applicant, staff recommends that the AAC approve the proposed sign with a direction for the applicant to work with the staff to address some of the comments that the AAC provided at the previous meeting. This concludes the staff presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the committee for the staff?
I have one.
Yeah, Dan.
So essentially, the sign hasn't changed.
We lost your audio, Dan.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So essentially, the sign hasn't changed since the first time it was submitted on the last meeting, correct?
Correct.
I don't know if this is the applicant. I'm the owner, or with the ownership, David Pratt. I could address that. We actually have made a change.
We're going to have you make your comments in a few minutes after the committee has their question answered by staff. Thank you for letting us know you're here. Any other questions for staff?
No.
I have a question.
Robert.
So on signage, does after AAC, does it go to Planning Commission or City Council, or are we the last stop?
After the AC comment, actually the AC will be providing recommendations to the director. So the director will be the one who's going to be making the final decision, unless the applicant decides to file an appeal to the Planning Commission or something. But the director will be the next stop.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Okay, now we can have the applicant give us a presentation. You have 10 minutes. Please give us your name and any comments that you have.
Great. So this is David Pratt. I'm with Tamarack Capital Partners and represent the ownership of the hotel. Also on the call is John Cross with Best Signs. And so I'll start out, but John can add in as necessary. We appreciate the time that you guys are taking to review this. You know, we did look at all of your considerations and requests. We took it to the Margaritaville brand, and they were very adamant that they would not approve a transparent or floating sign, that the solid background was necessary. We did change, you know, I know the staff had said the sign remains unchanged. We did actually update the background from a stucco background to a solid painted smooth surface based on your recommendation to eliminate the stucco. We had gone with the stucco because we wanted to integrate it with the existing building, which is a stucco building. But based on your recommendation, we've eliminated that and gone to a smoother surface. We, in discussions with staff, I think based on kind of water conservation considerations, it was a water feature was discouraged. We're obviously, you know, in the desert and trying to conserve, and so that really wasn't, based on our timeline, also just not a feasible option. The materials, you know, we try to build a sign that will last. As you guys know, it's very harsh climate there, and so real wood will weather quickly and not look good. And I think, you know, the staff's recommendation was that they also discouraged us to make those changes. It's something that we can do, but it would require us probably replacing that wood, you know, every 1 to 2 years, which is, you know, I think it would weather very quickly and probably not look fresh and new as we want the brand to show. I hope that you know, we are going to maintain the hedge in the background, and you know, this is, we've kind of taken all your recommendations to the Margaritaville brand for their consideration. We have invested a significant amount of money into this asset, which we think will be a huge benefit to the community. We're anxious to get open quickly and start bringing Palm Springs residents back to work, and getting the hotel back open so that it can be a contributing member of a great community. So we have taken into consideration both the hedge and maintaining that hedge, as well as, you know, eliminating the stucco background. The other considerations were rejected by the brand as brand requirements for converting this to a Margaritaville as kind of the final step of a $16 million repositioning of this hotel.
Thank you, Mr. Pratt. David, at this point, we would normally ask for comments from the audience. Has anybody asked to speak on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, then how about questions from the committee for the applicant? I'll start with my first basic question, and I'm looking at the page 1 from the best sign submittal. There's a photograph on the right side of that that shows an existing sign somewhere, and you can see long metal standoffs behind the sign. However, when I look at this side view, it looks like those sign panels are going to be sitting directly on whatever the background wall is, and we will not see those metal standoffs. Is that correct?
John, if you're on the call, John Cross is with Best Signs. He can comment on that. I do think this sign stands off. I don't know how far, but it does. It is raised off of the background. But John, maybe you can address that.
Yeah, of course. John Cross, Best Signs. So it will be pin mounted, but it won't be as extreme as you see in that example photo. The thicknesses of or the returns of the channel letters have been reduced to like 3-inch, and I think what you're looking at in that sample photo is like 5-inch. So you probably have a total of almost 1.5 foot of all thread in that sample, where I think our longest thread would be closer to 9 inches. So you will see a pin mount. A number of them are integrated into the sign. So during the middle, like in the middle of the logo section, they go through. So you won't see those. So it'll be very limited. But to answer your question, you will be able to see a pin mount, but it won't be as extreme as you see in the sample photo.
So then what I'm hearing is the side view drawing that you've submitted is not accurate, that we will see pins. You've got a 5-inch layer, a 5-inch layer, and then we'll have a 9-inch pin before you get to the wall. Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, so it'll be 3, 3, and 3 is the layering with the first layer attached to the cabinet.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Any other questions from the committee to the applicant? Robert?
Yeah, along those same lines. So when you go from layer to layer, is there any space between them, or is it 3 inches, butting up to the layer below?
No, they will be touching.
They will be touching.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then could you clarify, because in the first page of our packet, it says page 1, the side view shows 3 layers. But the construction drawings, which we currently have on our screen, only show 2. Are there actually 3, or have you been able to reduce it to 2?
No, it is 3. I think that was more or less for engineering. So yeah, showing the footing detail, but I can confirm that there are 3 layers, each at 3-inch return depth.
And then the last question I have related to the pins, the offset. Is there a way that you can minimize them and sort of make like the Margaritaville word more monolithic so that there aren't so many pins? My concern is that since this is on a 45 diagonal at the corner, cars or people coming by are going to see the side of that sign. It's going to be quite exposed. And anything you could do to minimize the number of pins and that side and improve the side view would be beneficial, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can send in an assembled photo because it's that side photo that was from a previous project, just as an example, but it is a little misleading because that one has some really deep pins, and like I said, the first layer is spaced off the wall, so it looks like there's just a lot going on with the mounting there, and it'll be limited visibility with ours as far as seeing all those pins. A lot of them integrate going through the layers, so they're hidden, but I can send photos to staff to show that it looks a lot cleaner than what's shown on the sample photo.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you to the David and John, and we will have our discussion. Committee members, what are our thoughts? Well, I'll give it a shot to start. I think it's pretty much a given that the colors in the logo are part of their corporate identity, and that is what this sign is going to be. They're definitely smaller in square footage than they're allowed. I think the thing that bothers me the most, if we're going to have an obscure background, the shape of it looks very odd. To have that arched top to it doesn't really it doesn't identify to any other elements within the resort property. So I think if that background were a wall material that truly exists on the building, and maybe even say on some of their walls, they have fry reglets that break it into a geometric pattern. Maybe they do that with a very thin reglet behind this sign, just to kind of give it a little uptick in character from what we're seeing here. Other comments? If there are no other comments, are we going to go to a motion?
Mr. Chair, what I might suggest is if the committee, with the understanding that there is a corporate component here that we are a little bit restricted to, that the committee provide a approval recommendation with direction that the applicant work with staff based on your comments about the background, as well as any other direction you might want to provide.
Can I, yeah, I'm sorry, I was having a little trouble with my microphone here. So I have a couple, thanks for that, David. I realize they may have made a minor change here, but ultimately, I think what we were arguing was that this corporate identity has a certain cheapness to it that I think we were trying to put in some constructive criticism. For instance, there's palm trees on the sign and potentially incorporating a natural landscape and a landscape plan as part of this signage. Some trueness to the materials and calling out a realistic wood or a real wood. And, we use real wood all the time here in our projects in the desert. So I'm not buying that, it would have to be replaced every 1 to 2 years because we know better. And I don't know, I just feel like this is a take it or leave it response, and I'm ready to leave it. I don't see much improvement here from the last time, and I don't think we're the first town to ask for a deviation from some corporate identity that a hotel or another business has tried to put on our main thoroughfare and asked it to be improved upon. So that's how I feel.
A question, am I able to respond? Because I'm happy to kind of field some of these questions.
Sure.
If the committee really needs real wood, I do think that it will be a maintenance issue, but I'm happy to comply with that. If that's something that, that's what I was trying to convey, is that, in my discussions with the staff, they had suggested they didn't think that was a good idea. They didn't think that we should do that. But if that's something that this committee would like to see, I am happy to do that and comply with a natural wood. I'm fine with that. We did that arch actually was intended to tie in with the building, If you're familiar with this building, it is all rounded. So the spa is a round structure. The entire hotel is, almost every wall in this hotel is rounded.
In plan, not in elevation. That's
Okay.
a very classical appearance to the elevation of this sign. I haven't seen that anywhere on these buildings.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just telling you that was the intent, was that arch was tying in with the roundness of the building. But if you would like to see natural wood, we can comply with that. I'm frankly just trying to push this forward because.
Rico, can you flip to that slide, the first one where it had the comments from AAC's last go around on this project? Use authentic materials such as real wood that can weather over time, relate back to the brand. We talked about water potentially being incorporated with that. True landscape, a landscape plan that maybe had palm trees incorporated into that. So I don't think we're hung up, or I'm not certainly not hanging my hat on a wood issue. Wood was just one of the items that, frankly, the response of not enough time or that wood would have to be replaced every 2 years is just something that I know personally to not be true. I think there's other things that can be done here. Modify the sign to be more transparent and integrate into existing architecture. I haven't seen that here. Integrate into the landscape with appropriate materials.
We did take that. We had Best Signs mock up a transparent sign. We took it to Margaritaville corporate, and they said that's outside their brand standard. So I frankly am happy to do that. They just won't. The brand won't accept that. You know, I think one of the previous comments was to use a material that's on the building. That's what we tried to do with stucco, but you all asked us to eliminate that. So you just tell us if you want something that's true to the side of the building, that would be stucco. If you don't want stucco, we're happy to not do stucco.
I think someone should look at the historic architecture of this building and the site and have a sign that incorporates into that. An architect ought to work on this and think about it, incorporate some landscape architecture into it. I know we're in the desert. There's lots of water features around that I think are not terribly overly consuming of water, and maybe something could be incorporated in some way. The lighting. This one just looks like it needs a little more thought and relating back to the original architecture of the building. I feel like it's turning. There was a great sign that was there, some great things about the building and the historical site that's there. It's a major thoroughfare, an intersection of two major thoroughfares in our main entrance to the town. To me, it still leaves a lot to be desired.
Can I make a comment if you're done, Sean?
Yes, I'm done.
I kind of feel the same way Sean does. I mean, Margaritaville is asking us to say, well, this is the sign we use on all our projects, and we want to plop our corporate sign down in your city, but they're not taking any consideration into our city and what our heritage is here and our history is, especially to this corner. That sign doesn't relate to anything about this building or our history here. And not that I think that it has to relate to our history, but they should have some respect for who we are and what we're trying to accomplish here. We're trying to work with you on the sign, but I kind of feel like we're getting told, take it or leave it.
We are being told that.
Yeah. Chair, I have I'm not, I don't disagree with the member Dan or Sean's comments, but as I'm looking at this, I think part of what is difficult about approving this as it has been submitted is that the background shape and size really doesn't belong. And I'd like to offer a suggestion that might help the sign, and it's maybe a bit of a compromise, and that is that you square the top off and you lower it so that it just ends slightly above the M and the E, and then you allow the palm trees, the top of the sun, and the parrot to project above that as a freestanding. So you still have a bit of a background, but you have a little bit more sculptural effect to the signage.
I think that's a good idea, Robert.
Yeah, I like that concept because it lets the graphic of the name of the sign have the background that they're requesting. And then it lets the artistic parts, the parrot and the palms, kind of project above. I think that Sean's comment that we definitely need to see some landscaping as part of the submittal is important. You know, the Margaritaville to me is kind of a lush Caribbean kind of concept, and here it's sitting in a bunch of rocks. So obviously we appreciate having the desert landscape here in the desert, but it in this case, it doesn't relate at all to the character that the resort is trying to project. So I think a landscape plan would be important. As far as the water feature, it's nice. I know that there was one there before that I'll bet you 80% of the people who drove by that site never saw it because it was basically down in the rocks and just kind of had bubbler effects coming up. So if there were to go to the concept of some water, I think it needs to be, it's hard to see. We could certainly see the water in plan, but it's hard to see it in elevation.
John, were you trying to?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
This is disappointing to hear the response. And I think that there are a couple core things that are going on here. One is that when developing a property that is so strong of character and has such potential to it, to simply take a preconceived notion as to what the sign should be and plop it down in front of it just expresses a huge disconnection between the marketing effort in terms of signage and the building itself. Number one. Secondly, the issue that I'm hearing in terms of like seeing it from the side and the hardware that is sort of not really thoughtfully managed and contained is an indication that this sign needs to be conceived of from various angles and not just the way it was designed, which is to basically be plumped in front of a building where you see it straight on. So that's kind of a clue that this is not on the right track. The third is the real disappointment is that what an opportunity to do something fantastic that I think simply has been missed. I'm sorry, I realize that issues of schedule and certainly the momentum of marketing directions are all to be respected, but also an opportunity like this is like, wow, it could be fabulous. I don't know. And we aren't seeing fabulous.
Could I interject? Could the concept that someone laid out of squaring up the sign, would you mind just repeating that? I'm truly happy to work with this. I'm stuck between, you know, a large corporation and you all. But I think that there's some merit in the idea that got laid out. So if you could repeat that, so that Best Signs could hear it and mock that up for me. I am very happy to consider that. You know,
I'll go one better on that suggestion. And Robert, I believe it's you're the one that might respond to what David Pratt's asking. But to me, you know, I like Best Signs. I think they're nice folks and they do some great work in this town. They've been around for a long time, so I don't think it's any shame against them. But to me, this needs an architect and a landscape architect.
Yeah.
And look at this sign. Look at how you can respond to some of Dan Thompson's contributions. I thought were spot on and much better put than I did. But you know, look at the heritage of the town and the property itself. John Walsh's comment about how bold and strong this property is and how much history goes along with it in our community. I think there's a deeper understanding and opportunity here to be grasped than rather than, hey, yeah, you know, when they get done with soccer practice, Best Signs, can you knock out a new version of this? I don't think that's the right answer. We're gonna end up right back here again, and morale's going downhill on this one. So it needs a more drastic, radical rethinking of this sign to me. That would be my suggestion.
I think you're right, Sean, and I think that they're missing an opportunity to have kind of a new opportunity to create something special in their corporation. And maybe it's not something that's cookie cutter that they use everywhere else, but something that's actually unique and maybe is a flagship type of a sign for a flagship building that's in this town. They need to think outside their normal box. That's just, this is what we use on every corporate building that we have.
Yep.
Any other comments from the committee?
I have nothing further. I think you all stated it well.
We have a motion.
I'll make a motion that we ask to revise and resubmit and have some thought, a little more thought put into this related to what our previous comments were.
A question for David Newell. Previously, I think we had a situation where after we review something twice, we don't ask for a resubmittal, we need to reject it or approve it. Is that correct in this situation, David?
That's correct, Mr. Chair. So the options essentially at this point are to recommend denial as presented, or as an alternative, direct the applicant to work with staff and possibly a subcommittee of the AAC on revisions based on the comments that or suggestions that were made.
Well, that wouldn't be part of my motion to, I make a motion then that we reject this and see it again when they're ready to resubmit it, reapply, I believe is the right term.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay, that is the decision on this project. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. One question, Sean, as part of that motion or action, would you suggest that we have a subcommittee that's available for the applicant to work with?
You know, I heard that also. I wouldn't recommend that. I think this one's another full presentation. Let's all take a look at it and see it again.
Okay, well, that was your motion that got approved, so that's where we will leave it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're now.
Sorry, Tom, were you suggesting, am I missing something? You mean?
No, David just mentioned that that was a possibility, and I just wanted to make sure you didn't forget to include that if you were including it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're now on to item number 3. Fumiko Docker of Pencil Box Architects on behalf of Cookies for a minor architectural application and sign permit application to paint exterior columns in Cookies blue and install new signage at a new cannabis dispensary located at 777 North Palm Canyon Drive. Do we have a staff report?
Thank you. As you're aware, this is the proposed exterior alterations to Cookies, which is a cannabis facility located at 777 North Palm Canyon Drive. As you may recall, this project was reviewed by the AAC on September 8th. As I mentioned briefly, the application is proposing exterior alterations, which include repainting of the columns in Cookies blue and new signage. Just to go over the AAC comments from September 8th, the AAC provided the following comments. Enhancement to the existing landscape is desirable. Staff to review the previously approved landscape plan and the landscape to be reviewed separately. The window signs, the AAC approved the signage. However, the committee provided comment that the window signs may be lost due to the size and installation locations, and there may be other locations which may be suitable for effective signage, such as blade sign. And at that time, the AAC stated that consider paint scheme which involves more than 2 columns and a low height wall. Based on the ASC comments about landscaping plan, staff actually reviewed the previous approval for this property, and its staff was able to locate the previous landscape plan in the microfiche format. However, the image was very poor, and its staff was unable to identify the plant materials that were previously approved by the city. And again, the landscape issue of the property will be reviewed separately. And these are the photographs of the site as currently exist. And this is the cookies blue color, which is incorporated in their product design. As you see on the image right here, the previous proposal was planning the painting of the 2 columns only. However, based on the comments provided by the AAC, the applicant has revised the proposal. And based on the revised proposal, the applicant is proposing to paint all columns in addition to the low height wall, which is located on the Palm Canyon frontage. And you can see it slightly by the applicant is proposing to install additional agaves in the existing planting beds to increase the amount of plant materials for the site. On September 8th, the AAC approved the proposed signage subject to staff recommendations, and the applicant has since revised the sign of the signage, which conforms to the zoning code requirement. And although it is not a part of this application, the applicant is in the process of getting landlord's approval for the installation of a blade sign, which will be reviewed by a sign program application in the near future. After the project was reviewed by the AAC on September 8th, the applicant contacted the staff stating that due to building safety requirement for the change of use, the business is required to install a new pedestrian access, which involves a new slope and then steps as it's shown here. Based on the revised plan, the staff finds that the AAC comments are reflected in the revised plan. Additional columns and low height wall will be painted in the cookies blue, and additional agaves will be installed to increase the amount of plant materials. And the business is planning on installing a blade sign by a sign program application. And the improvement to the existing pedestrian paths and the entrance areas required by the building safety department. After implementing these changes, the pedestrian path and entrance area will be ADA compliant. Based on these findings, the staff recommend the AAC recommend approval to the City Council as submitted. And this concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody on the committee have questions of staff?
I have one for Noriko.
Dan?
Yes.
Hi, Noriko. On the blade sign, I know that we're going to look at that later, but currently they're showing 2 graphic signs next to each of the door. So if they put a blade sign, would both those graphics still be allowed to stay on the glass?
Yes. These window signs are already permitted. I'm sorry, not permitted, but approved by the AAC. So these window signs are already approved, and they will be remaining.
So even though they're adding a blade sign, it wouldn't change any of the requirements for signage on this building?
Correct. Since this is a multi-tenant building, they have to get what's called a sign program, which dictate what kind of signage is permitted for the entire building. So the applicant will have some option to include additional signage and whatnot, but the window signs shown here are approved by the planning.
Okay, thank
you.
Sure. I understand. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I have a question.
Yes, Robert.
So Noriko, do you know, did the building owner give them, allow them to paint all the columns blue?
It is my understanding that the work has been approved by the landlord, and the applicant can certainly confirm that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? If the applicant is present, can you give us your name and a brief description of the project?
Hi, thank you so much for your time. My name is Fumiko Docker. I'm representing Cookies for Pencil Box Architects. I think based on what you've seen before, we would love to advocate for Cookies brand identity to be expressed on this unique building in the Uptown District. We'd like to do what we can to incorporate the existing landscaping into kind of brightening up the street frontage. The blue color is sort of the strongest piece of the Cookies brand identity. And so we took to heart your suggestion to apply more color to the building, considering it's currently very monochromatic. And we agreed that it would lend a nice element of what we hope reflects the deep blue of the desert sky, in addition to being representative of this California-grown business that is Cookies. I guess the other thing that I'd like to say is that the owner is extremely eager to open and has worked pretty diligently with the landlord. The landlord, in fact, has said he doesn't really care how the building is treated and has more said he wants it to be extremely economical. So I think that from the landlord's perspective, we understand that they're eager to have a tenant like Cookies to come in, because this building has been, I guess, mostly vacant for a significant period of time. And also Cookies is really eager to contribute to the local economy of Palm Springs, and sort of both be enhanced by Palm Springs brand and bring some youthful spirit and excitement of this California-based brand to the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Fumiko. Any questions of the applicant from the committee? Okay, thank you, Fumiko. Let's committee have some discussion. Comments from anybody? I'll have to say that I think it's an amazing difference to see all of the columns painted and that one low wall in the front. It kind of ties it all together now. And I can appreciate that the blue is such a contrast to the white. I want to try to make sure we don't get the kind of Greek blue. This seems to be a softer blue to go with the white. But I think it ties it all together. The landscaping is awfully minimal, but I know what was there just got trashed over the years. And maybe the simplicity of what we're seeing in the landscape does kind of go along with the simplicity of the building. Any other comments from the committee?
I just have a comment. I'm kind of torn. I like the columns all being painted blue and the short wall being painted blue on the south side, but I'm almost kind of wondering if the north side should be painted blue just to kind of balance, because it looks funny to me that one side's painted on the driveway and the other side's not.
Dan, I'm not sure if I totally understood. Are you saying the wall that they've painted blue to make sure that the back side of that wall is painted blue also? Or are you suggesting an additional wall?
There's the driveway there. You've got one on one side of the driveway painted
yeah.
blue and the other side isn't. So I almost feel like for balance, both half walls in the front towards the street should be painted.
Any other comments?
I think it's a vast improvement from the last time.
Yeah, no, I think it's much better for sure.
Noriko, do you have a photo of the front of the building, the whole front of the building? Thank you.
It looks to me if you were to paint the wall on the south side of the driveway, you're going to need to carry it all the way down the side of that kind of alley between the two buildings. And I'm wondering if that might be too much blue. I think the
Yeah,
uniqueness of that one monument kind of makes sense.
Yep.
no, you're right. It would be too much.
I agree.
It's helpful to see the whole building like that. I think you're right. I think that just one side's fine.
And I think it was helpful to see the photo of their product line so we could see that that blue is on all of their marketing and containers and things like that. So it does show a corporate identity. Any more discussion or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Don,
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Robert, all in favor?
I
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Fumiko, thanks for working with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate your input and enhancement of the signage.
Okay. And we're item number 4. We're into new business. Item number 4 has been moved to the consent agenda. Item number 5, Brian Foster for a minor architectural application for revisions to the front entry at Old Las Palmas Estates subdivision.
Hello. Oh, sorry, guys. Been having some trouble with my mic, so I'm just jumping into test. Sorry about that.
Okay, anyway, item number 5, front entry at Old Las Palmas Estate subdivision to include new landscaping, gate, and signage located at Las Palmas Drive. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, Chair. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes.
Yep.
Great. Let me just pull this over here. So this is Las Palmas Estates, which is located in the Old Las Palmas neighborhood. There's a 19-unit subdivision that has been subdivided in 2002. There were grading permits that were issued in 2004, and they added streets and curbs and gutters. And there is they're here today to restart the project, to start construction on the lots, and they'd like to rework the front entry. This is an aerial photograph of the current entryway. You'll notice that it's at the bend of two streets with a sort of curved entry into an existing gated area. There's large ficus trees to the north, and then some palm trees and other ficus trees to the south with a median in the middle. So the proposal is to freshen up the front entry. This is an overall scheme of what they're looking to do. I'll go through each of these elements in just a second. So the first is to add white rock to the ground cover, to add 3 pillars in the middle, the median in the middle, to shape in and clean up the ficus trees that are on the north property line. Currently, there is an existing house that will be raised, and there's a driveway that enters through a wall that will be closed up. So the sort of Spanish Mediterranean elements of that wall will be removed, and then a portion of the wall will be filled in, and it'll be more clean, modern look. As you know, the developer, Brian Foster, develops homes that are modern design, not Mediterranean. That's they want the front entryway to reflect the design of the homes that will be added to the interior. They're also looking to add artificial turf and boulders, and then they're proposing 2 entry monument signs. And you'll see in my recommendation in a minute, the sign ordinance only allows 1, and we have some other discussion of those entry monuments in just a minute. So the proposed gate that they're going to replace, they'll keep the 3 pillars that are across the front entrance, and then they'll keep the rectangular shaped metal gate, and then add the circles, paint everything stucco white, add barrel cactus and boulders in the front, and of course the ficus on both sides of the entry. They're proposing to add 3 pillars to the middle island This design has them at 14 feet. Staff feels that that is rather tall. Maybe a 12-foot put pillar may be more appropriate. There'll be smooth stucco painted a white, and then the applicant may talk about the name of the complex. I'm not sure what the name will be, but here I think this one is just a placeholder. This column will also have a call box with barrel cactus in the center and also the white rock. The monument sign will be two boxes placed off center, maximum height of 4 feet. The front entry, as I mentioned, will be removing stacked stone, which is currently on these columns, and make them smooth stucco painted a warm white. The modified gates will have rectangular frames posted, painted with the circles, and also a private sign, which is also a placeholder. You have in your packet a material board. One of the recommendations to the applicant was that they add a pedestrian gate. They've come back and said that this is possible, and that's what this picture is of. There is a gate there that they will allow it to be a pedestrian. The applicant has said that they may have to eliminate the ficus tree that's behind there. This is looking from the interior out to the entryway. So over in this area where the arrow is, they may have to revise some landscaping here, but I think that would be worth it to get the pedestrian gate to operate. So just some photographs of currently the area has gray pavers as you enter the island, the median island, and then the gate is dated. This was built, as I mentioned, in 2004. The pillars are stacked stone, so they will be removed and stuccoed with smooth stucco painted white. Also, the signage will be removed. The median will stay. Currently, the palm trees, the existing palm trees will remain with the grasses removed. And then this is the area that they're proposing to add a monument sign. I'm kind of circling it here. In speaking with our engineering department, there are some right-of-way lines and property lines that on their drawings, the placement of the monument sign needs to be worked out. We think that the drawing that they proposed has the sign in the right-of-way, which is a whole nother process if they wanted to go that route. And this is how the property looks as you approach. So with the new columns, they will be providing a sort of a grand entry into the new development, renovated development. So once again, this is the overall look of what they're proposing. So Chair, that concludes my report and the applicant is available.
Thank you, Glenn. Committee members, any questions for staff?
I have a question.
Yeah, Robert.
As part of the, sorry. So they have a placeholder of the one and also private plus the monument sign. Are those all within code? Are they specifying the, like on the one, they have they have basically what, 6 square feet? Is that, and then you add the private sign, is that all going to fall within what's allowed by code?
There has not been an evaluation based upon the signs because they're so conceptual right now that it's hard to, just by looking at them, they would only be allowed to have one monument sign, and they would have other directional signs in the entryway. So the private would most likely be approved, and this one sign, I'm not sure if that's what it's going to be called, so it's difficult to evaluate.
Glenn, are we reviewing the actual signs, or are we just looking at the walls, gates, and landscape?
You're just looking at the walls, gates, and landscaping.
Thank you.
Hi, Glenn. So on the white rock, it shows that it's quite large on that first cover page that we have. We didn't get any kind of landscape plans. Do we know what size rock they're anticipating putting there?
They do look large. There's no specification of what size rocks. So we may want to nail that down.
Thank you, Glenn.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question on
Yes, John.
staff, I guess it would be a question for as far as the gate that is there, that was all part of the approval process on the subdivision. Is that correct?
Yes, this was all part of the approval when the track map was mapped and laid out. Were you able to hear me, John?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, the applicant is here. Could you please give us your name and a presentation of your project?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hi, Brian Foster for One Las Palmas. As you know, as Glenn mentioned, we're at this point in the conceptual stage to come up with something that works, that's compatible for the development and equally as compatible for what our vision is for the homes. As you know, the development fell into need of a lot of repair. So we thought it was appropriate to start with the front entry gate and enhance to make it have some grandeur and make it look consistent with what Palm Springs is for. The gravel that you mentioned, it's just because of the graphics, it's showing larger to show it as rock. So the gravel will probably be about 3/4 to 1 inch, I would imagine, somewhere in that range. The trees that you see in the center medium are probably about 30 feet high as existing. So we felt maybe it was appropriate to scale the 3 pilasters to about 14 feet just to get it to balance. I know staff is recommending 12 feet, which is probably okay, but it might look a little bit out of proportion. As you noticed from the original photos of showing what's there, the north side of the street has existing ficus trees. So what we're trying to do is get it to where the development has the balance on the south side as well, meaning a balance of the ficus trees to screen out a lot of that wall area and so forth. But those walls are going to be updated regardless, getting away from the Mediterranean theme that you see there, including the gate that you see that enters into the motor court of the estate home that's there. So most of that area would be screened by the trees that are proposed to be planted there. Overall, it's just an enhancement of what's existing. We're trying to work with most of the structures that are there and just update it to give it more of a modern appeal for today. I think that's it for me, Glenn.
Thank you, Brian. Committee members, any questions for the applicant? Question I had, Brian, the 2 date palms that are on either side of the driveway to the house that's being demolished, are those being removed?
Probably. We'll probably relocate them somewhere else within the development. I think the palm tree should match.
Yes.
So I think the intent would be is to pull it all together and make everything balanced. So those could be moved. There are other areas within the development that they could be moved. So I think we'd probably most positively lean to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I've got, why the color palette of the white? How does that tie into the neighborhood and surroundings?
Well, we feel that white is iconic to Palm Springs, and it's clearly something that is popular today, and it's been popular in the past. So we don't think that it's out of the ordinary to do something within this development at all with the white color.
Anything else, Sean?
No.
Brian, I have a question about the selection of artificial turf. You know, we certainly appreciate not watering lawns. The artificial turf over time can get to look somewhat ratty. Have you considered other ground covers that might give yourself a green kind of carpet there, but not be artificial, but also not be grass?
No, we haven't thought about it, but keep in mind that this development will have an HOA, so there would be budget for replacement of that artificial turf as it wears and becomes old looking, I guess you'd say. But I am aware that, the lifetimes of these can range between 5 and 10 years. We would opt to put in something that lasts, the 10 years. But again, the HOA would have the authority over maintaining that, which I think everybody would want within a development of this nature.
And then the larger boulders that are shown in the island and near the monument signs, are those existing boulders, and what color are those?
There are some existing boulders, and there are some kind of, you can't see them. They're behind the Mediterranean wall. There's some nice large ones there. They're gray tone and some have some brown tones, and they're exceptionally large. So we would like to use what's there, and we'll also have the need to possibly import others.
Right.
But most of all, we want to use what's native to the area.
Okay. So the pavers that are between the street and the gate, those gray pavers are remaining?
Yes, in fact, those were just installed, I believe, a year ago.
And then what's the street once you get through the gate? Is it a paver also?
No, it's asphalt, and it does have some, I don't know if Glenn, yeah, it stops, it goes to asphalt. And I believe there is an area somewhere there where they did a paver band, but nothing, it's mostly asphalt.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Brian.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay, committee discussion. Steve, do you have any comments? We haven't heard from you much tonight.
Yeah, I think it's a big improvement on what's there in terms of modernizing. I tend to agree with staff comments about the 3 pillars. It feels a little heavy-handed to me, and they do seem a little big. I think the vertical scale of them is a little bit tough. So I think if they were reduced, that would make, in my opinion, a much more attractive project.
Thank you. Anybody else? John Walsh.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As I look at it, you have to sort of see it within the context of the existing neighborhood that it sits in, and I think that that's important. And one of the challenges around this is that, of course, there is a need for its own separate identity and putting that out on the street, but it feels a bit heavy-handed in terms of the way it presents visually. And I think you have to kind of realize one of the ethos of Las Palmas is it's kind of like less is more. Understatement and subtlety go a long way. And it just seems like the 3 pilasters, mastabas, that are sort of marching along there are kind of a little bit out of scale and a little bit too bold for the context. Again, you have to see it from the neighborhood that it sits in. The other thing it is kind of interesting is that, Las Palmas, whether you like it or not, is kind of very eclectic stylistically. Everything is in there. And so this is a definite stylistic statement. And sometimes you don't have to kind of do much to really get the point across. And it could be dialed down a bit, I think. Those are general comments. That's it.
Thanks, John.
I'll chime in on
Yes,
that.
John.
Yeah. So I agree with what John was saying in terms of scale and fitting in with its surroundings. That's what jumps out at me when I see the white gravel, the 2 monument signs flanking the central triple monolith signage, that everything just seems way out of scale and way too in your face for what this neighborhood and
Right.
this gated portion of this general overarching neighborhood. And so I guess when I see this scale here, I expect, you know, that a Ritz-Carlton behind here or something of that scale. And it seems almost a bit, well, out of scale and somewhat tacky for what we're about to find behind these gates here. So I'd like to see something that fits in with the community a little better, something less plastic and prosthetic, a more naturalized landscape. And I'm not sure that it has to be so white and electrifying. That's it.
Thank you. Robert, any comments?
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction from what was currently there. I agree it's a little overblown, and I think it definitely should and could be scaled back. I would agree with staff recommendations about eliminating one of the freestanding entry signs and also adding the pedestrian gate. I think the center island pilasters definitely could be brought down, and probably more than just the 2 feet staff is recommending. So I'm pretty much in agreement with the comments made by members Walsh and Sean Locker, but yeah, so.
Thank you. Dan, did we give you an opportunity to comment on this one yet?
Not yet. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I think just one sign that says Las Palmas on one side is fine. I'm kind of of the opinion that I think that all three of those monoliths should just disappear. I think it would look better without them and fit more into the neighborhood better. I understand what they're trying to do, create a sense of excitement to this part of the subdivision, but I also think that it's creating too much glitz for the area. And maybe just having those three things removed completely may be a big help. And that I don't personally have a problem with the white. I think there's a lot of white homes in the Vista Las Palmas neighborhood, and I kind of see where the circles are coming from. That's certainly repeated on a lot of the homes in that area. I just think that the three monoliths should disappear.
Thank you. I'm very much in sync with what Dan just said. The other thing I'm seeing is if you were to stand at a certain angle to the island, those three walls will become one. You're going to see one solid wall across the whole thing from certain spots. And I think that's just awfully big and awfully plain. I don't have a problem with the white. I think it does create a uniqueness for this neighborhood. I like the character of the gates, and I would agree with staff that we should require a pedestrian gate. It's a great walking neighborhood, so we need to be able to let people come and go. And one monument sign would be my opinion. And I'd ask them to reconsider the artificial turf with some natural green carpeting ground cover. Any more comments, or do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sean?
I'll make a motion that we reject this proposal and ask for the incorporation of some of the comments that we've made. Can I just recap through those?
Sure.
Yep, elimination of artificial turf. I wanted to throw one more on there. There's some berming I'm seeing going on the existing landscape that this looks quite flat and has reduced any of that berming or interest in the landscape. I see that particularly on the perimeter and maybe that central island. I don't know if we can incorporate some of that now. Would have been in the existing photos, particularly on the south side,
Right.
Exit side there. The elimination of the three white monoliths in the center. we talked about, at least I did, the elimination or alternate material to the white gravel and rock. There was not a consensus on the color white itself, and I think that without the monolith, and one monument sign, that becomes less of an issue to me.
Okay. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Member Rotman seconds it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. One last one. Are we able to weather through this without a break? I think we can. It doesn't look like it's too complex. It's item number 6, Scott Timberlake for a minor architectural application for a 503 square foot addition and a 420 square foot new detached garage at an existing house on a hillside lot, requesting an administrator minor modification for setback reductions located at 324 West Overlook Drive. Staff report, please.
Can I ask one question before we get started?
Sure.
I am a realtor and so is Scott Timberlake, and I have done a transaction with him. So do I need to recuse myself from this?
I can't answer that.
As Mr. Chair, maybe I can answer it. What was the transaction within the past year?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, unless there's any other business interests that you have with Mr. Timberlake, then you're probably fine and safe to participate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for noting that, Dan. Okay, staff report.
Thank you, Chair. This project is in the Mesa section of town at the top of West Overlook Road at the corner. I'm going to go to an aerial here. So what we're discussing is, at one point, this was the Gillette estate and the properties were subdivided several years ago. And this is one of the parcels that was subdivided, this corner parcel. So currently there's an existing house that is 750 square feet. And I'm circling it right now with my pointer here, cursor. They added a casita, which is to the east, this little casita here, and then the pool. So what they're proposing today is to add a 504 square foot addition that will bridge between the existing casita and the house, the little house, the 750 square foot house. So it'll go right in this area where I'm circling. Of course, this will require the elimination of some existing mature palm trees because the building will be constructed there. They're also proposing to construct a 405 square foot 2-car garage. Currently, where the cursor is pointing now, around the corner, there's a driveway that enters into a motor court. They're proposing to build a 405 square foot garage. Because this property is on a hillside, they also can ask for an administrative minor modification to reduce setbacks. So they are asking for setback reductions, and you have these site plans that are in your packet. So they're asking for a reduction of the front yard setback on the north property line along Crestview Drive here, and that is going to be at 10 feet where the corner of the existing house is, and the new addition, which we talked about, spans the existing house and the casita. That setback is proposed at 16. The other setback reduction that they're asking for is on the south property line where the new garage will be constructed. Because the lot is non-conforming, the setback would be 7 feet. They're asking for 6 feet. Moving on, in your packet, there's a floor plan showing the addition, a new living area plus a new bedroom and another bathroom, and then also the 2-car garage. The roof structures that they're proposing, currently it's a Mediterranean Spanish style house with smooth white stucco with clay barrel tile roofs. That will be the look that will be consistent. And then here's building elevation. So you'll see that the elevation of the new structure will be consistent with the rest of the house, which is 13 feet. Here, which is the version of the elevation that faces Crestview. And then the garage will be a square box with a wooden door, and 11 foot is the maximum height proposed for the garage. So looking at some current photographs, I apologize for some of the quality of these, but this is the existing driveway that's there. This pylon will be pulled back and the driveway entrance will be widened in order to get to the new garage. So the idea is that they will mimic this column once it's rebuilt, and also the white stucco wall will be replaced. This is the corner. So as you can see, there's a tall wall and then mature landscaping that obscures the view of the estate itself. So within the property, this is looking at the casita that was built just recently. And this is the area that will be where the new addition will be constructed. So these 3 mature palm trees will be removed. This outdoor patio will also be removed, and some of these lower brush, shrubs and so on. And this is the connection that will go into the house. You see it's a gable roof, and the new structure will attach to this side of the house. So in your packet there, I had emailed out another email that we received from a neighbor. The neighbor lives at 300 Overlook, which is this house that I'm circling right now. You'll see in your email, you notice that she commented on the height of the garage. Once again, the garage will be on the south property line and adjacent to her property. So I just wanted to point that out, that hopefully everyone has had a chance to read that correspondence from her. So this project is going to be, staff is recommending approval, and it will go to the Planning Commission for their approval at a meeting to come. So that concludes my report, and the applicant, Scott Timberlake, is available.
Thank you, Glenn. Questions for staff from the committee?
I have a question.
Dan?
Hey, Glenn, can you go back to the neighbor's house, to that photo that you were circling the neighbor's house?
Yes.
The trees that are on that property line, do you know how tall those trees are?
So in looking at, obviously the black lines are a little bit off. The GIS skewed it. So this line right here is the uh-oh, what did I do? Sorry. Technical difficulties, sorry.
Come in, Glenn.
I know.
Then why don't we stop share? Oh, you got it. Okay.
So glad I'm not the only one that happens to.
Is it back?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, sorry. So as you can see, this line is the ficus that's existing on the 324 property. These larger trees are on the neighboring property. So these won't be touched. They're very tall.
Do we know how tall approximately?
I don't know, just looking at the photographs. So these are the trees in the background I'm pointing at now.
Okay.
Close to 20 feet.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Glenn.
Any other questions of staff? I believe the applicant is here. Would you give us your name and a short presentation of your project?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'm Scott Timberlake, and there's a long, I won't spend much time on it, but there's a long history of this property. The 277 West Crestview, which is where I live now, was the main estate, and of course it covered the whole block. So all the structures you see around it, unfortunately, were chopped off by previous owners and divided up, and there are a few houses that go around the corner of Overlook that were part of the main estate. So when I bought the house at 277 Crestview, I had sold. Part of what had happened is the owner chopped up the lots. He sold off 324 Overlook, which was the main driveway, the guest house, and the pool to the main estate of 277 Crestview. Never knowing that I would end up owning 277 Crestview, but I thought it was a disaster in the making, and it was. So now there's this 750 square foot house. I don't know what the owners were thinking by adding a 100 square foot guest house, but I'm trying to combine, I'm not trying to combine lots, but as you can see from the overlap, my house really needs, I'm buying the 324 Overlook to bring the estate back to at least a size that is worthy of the house. You can see how large my house is and how it's set on the lot. And I had to create a new gate on Crestview. I had to, restore the house, do all sorts of things. And I'm not combining the two properties, but I want the 324 Overlook house to be compatible with the neighborhood, which is just a normal size house. I mean, the end result will be like 1,800 square feet or 1,700 square feet. And then of course the garage, the original garage and the pylons are still there, was on the very corner there of Overlook and Crestview. But as you can see with the corner setbacks, I can't do anything about it. So I'm just trying to put them back together and create some space between it. And as far as the neighbor on Overlook, she can't even see the houses from her property, but so that's, I don't know what that's about, but I would really like to see, before this little one gets torn down, I would like to see the properties back together, which are the only two original 1923 buildings left. And that's about it.
Thank you, Scott. Any questions of the applicant from the committee? Robert.
Yeah, about the garage under question. Is there, this may go back to your designer or you, Scott, but the garage shows a flat roof. Is there a reason for that? And again, the height of 11 foot. Is there some rationale between that height and doing a flat roof when everything else is pitched?
No, I prefer pitched, and it was the architect's suggestion that, depending on the height, we were asking for so many variances. He said we should, try to keep it down. I actually prefer a pitched roof, and I think it should match the others.
Well, that was my thinking, is that if you did a pitched roof, so that one of the low sides is facing 300, then it would potentially mitigate some of the concerns of your neighbor. And whether those are valid or not, I can't say, but it certainly might help the situation and maintain her views.
I also think it would look better. I agree with you 100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Any other questions of the applicant? Scott, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee discussion. Well, I'll start. I totally agree with Robert. And I think if that had a gable roof on it with the plate line at about 8 feet and then the 4 and 12 slope coming up into the middle, it'll lower that side adjacent to the 300. It'll give her a beautiful tile roof to look at. The entire estate now has the same sort of tile roofs. I think it just ties it together.
Yes.
Very much agreed.
Any other comments or questions? Do we have a motion?
Maybe one comment.
Sorry, Sean?
Yes, so Robert, sorry, where are we settled in with the pitch roof and being sensitive to the neighbor also? I think that's where you were going, Robert, was potentially dropping the eave on the south side there and pitching up to a height, maybe landing at a place of 11 feet in the center?
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. Seems like the owner was excited about that. Yep, could the, I don't know, it's pretty shallow pitch, tough to tell from these drawings. Maybe it could even be 10-6 on the ridge line.
Their other roofs are called out as 4 and 12. I would just match that.
Yeah,
Whatever it ends up being, it's still going to be way under the height limit.
And better looking.
Now, which way were you pitching the roof from the side, from the north to south, or from east to west?
I think it has the east-west ridge line. So
Correct.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, same as the existing guest house, yeah.
Yep, and that way you'll have a gable end facing the street, just like most of the other buildings in here have gable ends.
I agree. I think the architect's on Stan also, so I think that's a good recommendation.
Okay, do we have a motion? Any more discussion? I don't want to rush things. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve with the revision of the roof line of the garage, that it become a gable, and that the gable run in the east-west direction. The ridge line runs in the east-west direction. Yeah.
And can we also add to that specifically that we approve the setbacks as shown on the submittal?
Yes, and we approve the setbacks as submitted.
Do we have a second?
Can I second, but can I stipulate that the pitch be the same as match the house?
I will accept that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion that's been slightly varied, and we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Scott, it'll be a nice addition to finish up that neighborhood.
Great, thank you.
Okay, boy, we got through that in good time. Do we have any committee member comments? I have one comment. I don't know if you've all noticed that on our previous dockets, David Newell was always listed as a principal planner. He is now assistant director of planning. So
Congratulations, David.
Thank
you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
We are not having another meeting in November. We have our December meeting is scheduled. Talking to the staff, it looks like it might have a heavy agenda. There might be a lot of items because they need to get a lot of these things done before the end of the year. So there is a possibility that we would have 2 nights in a row. So could everybody kind of look at your calendars, try to save the night after our meeting night of the 7th, or if not, let staff know what might be a second evening if we needed to extend our meeting. We don't want to go till midnight. I think it'd be nice if we could break it into 2 pieces.
Makes sense.
7th and 8th.
Any comments from the staff?
No, that's about it. I think, yeah, just what we're looking at, given the holiday schedule for this month and next month, and the limited meetings that we typically have at this time, and the fact that we still have a lot of cases coming through. We might look at that second day right immediately following your next meeting in the event that we need to. I think that might be something we're looking at for the Planning Commission this month. So it would be great if
David, that would be a 5:30 in the evening meeting start. Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's it.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
5 minutes after 7. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.